Tulsi Gabbard stepped onto the hearing room floor with one purpose: to shine a light on hidden truths. Schiff entered expecting another routine oversight session, just questions, answers, and the usual political theater. But within minutes, his composed facade began to crack under the weight of Tulsi's revelations. What had been billed as a standard review quickly morphed into a live spectacle, and by the time the gavel fell, a career hung in the balance. Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe, because these are the moments they hoped would stay buried. Even her friends did not expect this. It was tense the morning that Tulsi Gabbard opened the door of the chamber. The cameras were humming, and the lens of cameras raked every face in the room. The Arts Center gallery was packed. All the seats were occupied. Additional media booths were fitted into those corners where they could find a nook, and internet traffic had already begun to surge. Tulsi nodded briefly in direction of the committee, but instead stared at Congressman Schiff. "Congressman Schiff," she began, voice calm but firm, "I have several questions for you today. But before that, I must inform both this committee and the American people that I am submitting materials this morning which raise grave national security concerns about your conduct." A soft hum rippled through the chamber as Schiff reached for his microphone. "Director Gabbard," he said, masking irritation with a polite smile, "if we're about to witness another political performance, let me remind you this committee is dedicated to facts, nothing more." Tulsi inclined her head. "Agreed. Let's proceed with the facts." She tapped a slender black binder before her, unassuming, yet holding documents that would reverberate through every major news outlet by day's end. She started with the stated objectives of the hearing, which are transparency, trust, oversight. Then, systematically, she started to replay the mouthwork of Schiff in public on the Russia collusion saga with exact timestamp, video clip, and memos declassified that directly refuted his version. Twice Schiff tried to speak. Both times the chair, tactfully but decisively, interrupted him. Then came the first bombshell. "In 2019, you publicly declared incontrovertible evidence linking President Trump to collusion with Russian operatives," Tulsi said, voice steady. "Yet newly declassified NSA intercepts prove no such evidence existed. What's more, internal messages from your office at the time show you knew it was unfounded." Silence swallowed the room. Schiff's jaw tightened. His eyes flickered between disbelief and panic. Tulsi continued, "I'm entering into the record an internal memo from your communications director, dated March 7, 2019. We need to press the collusion narrative, even if Mueller's report disappoints. The political payoff is worth it." One of Schiff's aides shifted uneasily. Cameras closed in. The chair leaned forward. "Is that memo genuine, Director? It's been authenticated by the NSA, the Department of Justice, and the Inspector General," Tulsi replied. With that, the hearing shed its routine veneer and transformed into an unprecedented showdown. After a short recess, the atmosphere had become electric. Social media feeds exploded. Cable networks abandoned preset programming to broadcast live. Inside the room, all eyes remained on Tulsi, poised, unflappable, while Schiff's confidence eroded by the second. She resumed, "Congressman, are you aware your financial disclosures from 2017 through 2021 show an $8.9 million discrepancy?" Schiff blinked, off guard. "My filings were cleared by the Ethics Committee." "I'm not sure what you mean." Tulsi nodded. "Let's examine the numbers together." A slide illuminated behind her, charting his declared income, salary, speaking fees, book royalties, against the second column listing foreign wire transfers, private equity accounts, shell entities. The sums didn't align. The documents, she explained, were the product of a joint Treasury audit. Several transfers originated from a Cayman Islands consulting firm tied to defense contractors. She noted, voice measured. Schiff's staff whispered urgently. He pressed his fingers to his temples, silent. Tulsi pressed on. "Here's a $1.2 million deposit into your personal trust in May 2020. Your signature appears on the authorization. Do you deny it?" He hesitated. I need to consult legal counsel. You'll have that opportunity, Tulsi replied smoothly. But the American people deserve answers now. The chair signaled her to continue, and she presented yet another exhibit. 3 high-value real estate purchases. 2 in California, 1 in D.C., all paid in cash within a year. Unaffordable on his official income, yet explained by the undisclosed foreign inflows. Reporters feverishly typed. Schiff's aides looked on, aghast. Still unfazed, Tulsi unveiled a suspicious activity report from Wells Fargo tied to Schiff Family Holdings LLC, an entity absent from any public disclosure. At that, Schiff's voice cracked. These are outrageous accusations. You're alleging money laundering, live on national television. Tulsi's eyes locked onto his. I'm presenting irrefutable evidence. If any of it is false, feel free to seek recourse in court. Again, silence, a heavy thud of disbelief. The chair leaned in. Director Gabbard, more evidence? Her nod was slight, but resolute. Much more. She reached for her folder again, and the room held its breath. This next tranche wasn't about money. It was about trust, betrayal. Her hand hovered over a stack of redacted intelligence reports cleared for public release. Each was a summary of NSA intercepts and communication logs from 2017 to 2020, detailing Schiff's private exchanges with top media executives during the peak of the collusion narrative. A collective gasp rose. Transcripts showing coordinated strategy sessions, unapproved talking points, embargoed memos. A screen displayed one exchange. March 2nd, 2018, 9:41 p.m. Media executive. Got anything solid to push this week? Schiff. Nothing definitive, but enough to maintain pressure. Obstruction. Foreign entanglements. Go heavy. Schiff exhaled, visibly drained. Tulsi held the room with her gaze. These intercepts show a pattern of deliberate manipulation, undermining public trust, exploiting intelligence for political gain. At that moment, the chamber no longer acted like a podium of checkboxes and procedure. It was a pressure cooker in which the force and responsibility hit head-on. Tulsi Gabbard had come with the intentional purpose of revealing the truth, and in the process, she redefined the history of a political giant in front of millions of people. And when the last document was taken out, so to speak, nothing rehearsals, denials would ever be the same. The words seemed to hang in midair. Adam Schiff's complexion drained to an unsettling gray, but Tulsi Gabbard pressed on without hesitation. This committee has authenticated these messages, she began, voice steady. The metadata aligns perfectly. Timestamps, originating devices, encryption protocols. They match what we'd expect from classified communications. Murmurs rippled through the room as she continued. Congressman Schiff selectively released intelligence to sway public opinion, even admitting privately he lacked any verified sources. Schiff opened his mouth. That's a gross mischaracterization. Tulsi cut him off. Members of Congress speak to the press all the time, but they don't hold pre-release briefings on sensitive intel, nor coordinate narrative attacks to imply guilt without proof. That's not reporting. It's information warfare. Silence fell. Schiff glanced at the chair, who remained as impassive as a statue. Then Tulsi dropped her bombshell. In July 2019, she said, after a closet-door briefing, Congressman Schiff called a senior editor and said, "We're losing the narrative. Let's resurrect the back-channel Moscow communication story, even if it's purely speculative. I want it on air by Sunday." Now Schiff said nothing. He simply stared at the table. What this country endured during the Russia investigations, years of division, shattered trust, media mania, wasn't an accident. It was manufactured, and one of its chief architects sits before us. A hush spread through the chamber. Then Tulsi lowered her voice to a quiet rasp. If this were mere bad judgment, we'd be in a different room. But this is deliberate disinformation by a sitting member of Congress, and the next document will prove it. All eyes locked on the thin sheaf of paper she held. Schiff shifted uneasily. He knew what was coming. "This," she said, "is a $4.2 million advance paid to Congressman Schiff by a Delaware publishing house. Ostensibly a book deal, except its timing and contents point to a serious breach of national security." She distributed copies to every member. As the chair flipped through the first page, his eyebrows rose. Tulsi pressed on. The contract was signed just 1 week after the Johnson Joint Report on Eastern European Cyber Threats was sent to this committee. That report stayed classified. Yet 3 months later, Schiff's manuscript lifted entire passages. Rewarded for it, yes, but unmistakably drawn from that report. Schiff leaned forward. "That's categorically false. Any overlap is coincidence. My team worked with National Security Council to ensure full compliance." Tulsi raised a single finger. "We confirmed with the Pre-Publication Review Office that no manuscript was ever submitted before print. That violates every protocol." The tension in the room ratcheted up another notch. Schiff opened his mouth, then closed it. Tulsi didn't skip a beat. "Beyond the book advance," she said, "we uncovered recurring consulting payments. $900,000 funneled through Marlowe Strategies, an LLC in Virginia with no staff, no office, no website." She clicked to the next slide, a list of defense contractors, all with active security clearance projects. 3 held spycraft contracts with DoD and CIA, 2 worked on cyber defense, 1 built surveillance networks. All won approval here while Schiff was chair. "These invoices," Tulsi pointed out, "are described vaguely: policy consultation, narrative alignment, briefing recap. Yet they arrived mere days after classified briefings." Finally, Schiff spoke. "You're leaping from coincidences to conspiracies. My work has been above board for 2 decades. Tulsi leaned in, voice calm but firm. "In those 2 decades, have you ever disclosed your ties to Marlowe Strategies? Have you reported these payments in your financial filings?" He said nothing. "We've cross-checked every disclosure. There's no record. That's a direct violation of House ethics rules and federal law." A committee member murmured to the chair. Reporters exchanged astonished glances. Tulsi laid one final document on the desk. "This is a sworn affidavit from a former executive at one of those firms. It states Congressman Schiff personally requested talking points for cybersecurity hearings, while quietly collecting these funds." The chamber fell silent. Tulsi's voice broke the quiet like a blade. "This isn't merely influence. It's control. And if these allegations hold true, Congressman Schiff compromised classified operations for personal gain." She paused, letting it sink in. Next, we turn to January 6th. The hearing, once a routine policy discussion, had transformed into something far darker, and no one in that room would ever forget it. The air was thick with the roominess becoming claustrophic. Once there was a percussion of Tulsi fingertip against the manila envelope closed before her, a sound at least in the rooted silence. During the approach to the Capitol breach, Congressman Schiff had attended a sequence of top-level security briefings, moments of warning in regards to escalating internet traffic, the communist organization of extremist groups, and viable fears of interference with the certification process. All warnings had been placed, time-stamped, and noted. But there he went, coolly showing up on cable television, irrelevantizing the whole episode as political hysteria. Tulsi let her gaze sweep the room. On the side monitors, frozen frames showed Schiff shrugging off concerns, his face tight with practiced disdain, as he insisted these alarms were nothing more than fair conspiracy fodder. She opened the envelope and slid its contents across the desk, a trove of text messages between Schiff's aides and network producers. One message read, "Let's not stoke panic. Better to frame it as a Trump fallout afterward." She let the words sink in before looking up. Schiff leaned forward, his jaw clenched. "You're twisting ordinary political spin into some grand conspiracy. Messaging is not foreknowledge of an attack." Tulsi tapped the table, then explained why. 2 days before January 6th, your office formally requested classified Capitol Police schedules, camera blind spot maps, emergency staging details. A ripple of gasps went through the gallery. She turned toward the chair. Subpoenaed documents show your communications director marked this request urgent. The Capitol Police log. Even that confirms it was fulfilled on January 4th. She paused, letting the weight of that date hang. Then she dropped the next bombshell. On January 5th, your office circulated an internal memo. If events escalate, this is our moment. Outline impeachment language immediately. More murmurs. Cameras clicking. Schiff's face darkened. That's absurd, he spat. We were simply preparing for all contingencies amid unprecedented unrest. No, Tulsi said softly, leaning in. You were scheming to capitalize on it. You turned a national crisis into your political playbook before we'd even seen the smoke clear. The room buzzed with disbelief. Tulsi kept her composure. I'm not here to relitigate January 6th. I'm here to ask, who in Congress knew of this danger and chose to exploit it instead of stopping it? From everything we've unearthed, one name stands alone. She snapped her fingers, and a new slide filled the screens. Titles glowing. Manufactured evidence. These documents were never meant to see the light of day, she continued, pulling out a second envelope stamped declassified. A joint Doyoni review focused on two key exhibits Schiff submitted during the first impeachment inquiry, reported summaries of NSA intercepts. The monitor shifted to show side-by-side transcripts. Here's where it gets damning, Tulsi said. In Exhibit A, he quotes a Russian operative threatening election meddling. But the original NSA intercept? No such quote exists. It was invented. Gasps echoed in the chamber. In Exhibit B, he claims a tightly coordinated timeline of calls between Trump affiliates and Russian envoys. The NSA records show no calls on those dates. Some never happened. Others were months apart. She watched Schiff's composure crack. He stammered. Summaries are meant to clarify complex intelligence, textbook practice. Tulsi's tone remained calm but steely. Summaries clarify. Fabrications deceive, inventing quotes, misstating timelines. That's not interpretation. It's fiction. She flipped to the final page. A highlighted section of the Intelligence Oversight Act. Misrepresenting classified data can violate federal law. The chamber fell into a hush, so deep you could hear the hum of the air conditioning. Tulsi placed the document on the desk. And there's more. An internal memo from your senior advisor states, tighten the timeline. Dramatize the language. No one will fact-check before the vote. Reporters lean forward, pens poised. These aren't the words of someone in search of truth, Tulsi said, her voice rising. They're the words of a political operative weaponizing intelligence. Schiff opened his mouth, but Tulsi cut him off with a single nod. It was time for the final reveal. She reached for a crimson tab folder. Last call. Internal influence operations. Right here in America. Orchestrated by your own network. She unveiled a complex flowchart. Between 2018 and 2022, Congressman Schiff is tied to 4 nonprofits, all ostensibly defending democracy. But investigations show they functioned as media amplification machines. Scripted headlines, anonymous donors, planted talking points. Lines on the chart trace from Schiff's name to PACs, board members, shadowy donors. One group received over $2.5 million in anonymous foreign contributions in a single year, she said, voice low. These funds didn't just support civic engagement. They financed coordinated messaging that fired straight into Schiff's speeches. Questions exploded from the audience. Tulsi folded her arms, letting the implications settle. This hearing had shifted, no longer oversight, but a reckoning. She closed the folder. We will pursue every lead in this domestic influence network. Because if we don't hold those at the top accountable, chaos will be waiting for the next opportunity. She sat back, eyes locked on Schiff. The murmur rose into a roar as Tulsi Gabbard, director of oversight, had laid bare a web of opportunism, fabrication, and clandestine influence. One designed to shake the foundations of democracy itself. Tulsi clicked the remote, and a clear timeline lit up behind her. Here's how it went, she began, her voice steady. On March 12th, Congressman Schiff received a sizable donation wired through offshore accounts tied to consulting firms in Qatar and Luxembourg. 3 days later, March 15th, he made a public statement on the very issue tied to that donation. By March 17th, an amendment appeared in committee, and the next morning, March 18th, an exclusive news story. These aren't coincidences. She glanced around the hushed room. When we aligned donation dates with Schiff's media appearances and committee actions, a pattern emerged. A hand shot up. Are you suggesting he orchestrated a coordinated media blitz? One member asked. Tulsi nodded. Yes. The same talking points showed up, verbatim, across press releases, cable panels, and social feeds, all within hours of each other. Tulsi advanced to her next slide, a screenshot of a Slack message from one of the nonprofits. It read, Team, Adams pushing tonight's leak. Prep talking heads. Scripts are in the drive. She looked each senator in the eye. That note was sent 2 days before a classified report slipped to the press. This isn't just bad judgment. It's a deliberate breach of public trust. The atmosphere in the room shifted. What began as a routine oversight hearing felt like the epicenter of a national reckoning. Tulsi set her binder on the table. I'm submitting a full report, signed by 3 independent federal investigators, documenting how Congressman Schiff violated intelligence oversight agreements and misled the public under oath. A collective gasp filled the chamber. Schiff tried to interject. You're connecting dots that don't exist, he protested. Tulsi met his gaze. This isn't a criminal trial, but the evidence speaks for itself. Inconsistent financial records, doctored intelligence summaries, exploitation of a national crisis, shadow network coordination. It's all here. She tapped the projected committee code of conduct. Every one of us swore an oath to transparency and truth. That oath was broken. Then, turning to the chair, she announced, I've referred this case to the DOJ and the House Ethics Committee. I recommend Congressman Schiff's access to classified material be suspended immediately. The chair nodded slowly. Has the DOJ responded? Tulsi confirmed. They have. Special counsel is on the way. Silence pressed in. Schiff's team shuffled papers, their faces pale. No longer a partisan skirmish. This was about real consequences. Tulsi stood, her voice measured. This isn't only about one man. It's about restoring faith in our institutions. Americans have grown cynical after too many hearings that lead nowhere. Today, we followed the truth wherever it led. A committee member asked, Director Gabbard, does Congressman Schiff still pose a risk to national security? Without hesitation, Tulsi replied, yes. Someone who manipulates intelligence for profit and stokes fear will always choose power over country. The chair sighed. We will proceed accordingly. Tulsi sat, the moment heavy and silent. Outside, TV crews were already flashing breaking news banners. Schiff, once untouchable, now sat rattled. Tulsi bent over last time. One answer to this question that should be provided to the American people. That an elected official is able to lie about intelligence, to make money on secrets, exploit crises, to gain control of media, and there are no actual consequences. Then what would the oath of office entail? But what she was saying was not merely hooted, but quite obviously had a terrific impact. Addressing the chair, she issued her last suggestions. Suspend Congressman Schiff until the DOJ provides results. Make a bipartisan censure resolution. And have a joint hearing on abuse of classified material. The chair accepted to immediate review. Another senator asked, and if criminal wrongdoing is confirmed? Tulsi's answer was simple. Then he should be prosecuted just like any citizen. Schiff sat frozen as his team quietly packed up. When the gavels came down, the hearing ended not with scandalous headlines, but with something rarer, unassailable evidence. Tulsi gathered her papers and rose. A reporter called out, Director Gabbard, was any of this personal? She paused, then replied calmly, no, it was necessary. With that, she stepped into the hallway, her courage and meticulous proof ensuring that, from this day forward, power, truth, and accountability would be remembered as inseparable.